Hi guys, this is Rich with Wild Wonderful Weekends, and I'm here at the Kanawha State Forest today to set up a land nav challenge for anybody who's watched my series on map and compass land navigation and wants to give those skills a try. I've set up a marker here in the forest, and I'm going to give you a topo map, a starting point, a waypoint, a compass bearing, and the distance you need to move along that bearing in order to find the marker. Once you do find the marker, if you don't care, take a selfie with it and send it to the email address in the description. I'm going to use those photographs in a future video. This is going to be a level 1 challenge, which means it's not going to be too difficult. There's not going to be any steep terrain, the marker's near a well-defined trail, and you aren't going to have to walk a very long distance to find it. But you are going to get a chance to practice some of the things that we covered, like route planning, pace count, moving along a compass bearing, things like that. It should be fun. This video is broken up into 3 sections. The first section is going to be the basic instructions, and if you're confident in your land nav abilities, you don't need to watch any farther. You can go ahead and get started with the challenge. The second section is going to be a few tips and pointers to plan your route and to stay on course to find the marker easily. And the third section is going to be for folks who aren't really comfortable taking this on their own yet, and they'd like to see the process from start to finish. So I'm going to do that step by step from route planning all the way to finding the marker. So let's go ahead and get started with the instructions, and good luck.
First, let's cover what you'll need for this challenge. I strongly recommend that you watch my video series on map and compass land navigation, or at least refresh your memory by watching the 5th video in that series, putting it all together. Next, you'll need the topo map of Poly Hollow. The link is in the description. When you print this map, be sure it's in color and at 100% scale, otherwise you won't be able to correctly identify the terrain features or calculate the distance you need to travel. If you receive an error when you try to print this map, try downloading it first and printing from your computer. You'll also need a ruler for calculating distance. You'll need a base plate compass like the ones we discussed in the 2nd video in the map and compass navigation series, a pen or pencil, reading glasses or a magnifying glass to aid in reading the map and compass, and a scratch piece of paper with a straight edge to help you calculate your distance, as I'll show you in the 2nd section of this video, as well as to keep track of your pace count as you walk. The equipment I've covered here are the bare minimum you'll need. Of course, make sure that you have everything else you need for a hike in the woods, like appropriate clothing and foot gear. Now that you're equipped, you're ready to make your way to Poly Hollow in the Kanawha State Forest. Put these GPS coordinates into Google Maps for directions. I'll put them in the description as well. If you're unfamiliar with how to use GPS coordinates with Google Maps, watch my video here for instructions. When you get to the entrance of Poly Hollow, you can park near the gate, just don't block it, or you can park on the opposite side of the road near the picnic table. You're now ready to make your way to the waypoint. Once you reach the waypoint, you'll need to set your compass to a bearing of 151 degrees, then travel along that bearing for 192 feet. That should put you close to the marker, which looks like this. Don't forget, when you find the marker, to take a selfie with it in the shot and send it to the email address in the description. If you've watched the entire Map and Compass Land Nav series and you've been practicing on your own already, then you have everything you need to complete this challenge. A couple quick tips though. Don't forget to set your magnetic declination per the map, and don't try this challenge if there's been a lot of rain in the area. If you would like some pointers on planning your route and completing this challenge, just keep watching.
Okay, so now we're going to plan our route. We're right here by the main road, and the main road is indicated on the map by this banded red line. And the Poly Hollow trail that we're going to go down is indicated by these double black lines here. This means that it's a very well maintained trail. It's not as narrow or steep as some of these trails indicated by this single dotted line. And our objective is to move from here to this waypoint indicated by blue. And then we're going to shoot our compass bearing and move along that bearing 92 feet. So the first thing we want to do is to familiarize ourselves with the terrain that we're going to see as we walk along here. That way we know we're on course. And the first thing that I notice is that this trail runs parallel with this creek indicated by the blue line. Sometimes the creek intersects the trail, sometimes it runs right along it, maybe right on top of it even. So that tells me this would not be a good trail to try after there's been a lot of rain. The other thing that I notice is that we're going to pass between 2 mountains, and it's basically going to be a wall on our left and a wall on our right. And I can tell that by these very close together contour lines that kind of just move parallel to the trail. I also notice that our trail itself isn't very steep, and I know that because there's a contour line here and another contour line here, but there's a lot of space between those. And then there's another one right here, and again there's plenty of space between those. The contour lines on this map have about 20 feet of elevation between each line. So this is very shallow, and these close together lines are very steep. Other than that, the terrain's pretty unremarkable until we get to where our waypoint is. It opens up quite a bit. There's a draw off to our left, and there's a draw off to our right a little bit past the waypoint. So this is really what we want to be looking the most for, because all of this terrain here as we're walking is going to be right along the creek. There's going to be basically a wall of a mountain on our left and on our right, and then at some point it's going to start opening up into these draws right here. Once we see that, we know that we're getting really close to where we need to be to shoot our compass bearing. And it's also a good idea when you navigate with a map and compass to have what they call handrails that I went over in the series, which is something that you know that's a terrain feature or even a man-made feature like power lines or railroad tracks or a road that you can kind of keep an eye on as you navigate. Maybe you're running parallel to it, maybe you're going to intersect it at some point, so it's kind of your handrail, it's kind of your sanity check that you're moving in the right direction. In this case, the creek serves that purpose fine. And the other thing that you want to have is what they call a backstop, which ensures that you don't overshoot your mark. And again, the creek serves that as well too, because if we move to a point where the creek splits, then we know we've gone too far. Also, if we go to a point where the trail splits, you can see right here that we've gone too far. We also know if we start heading up steeper terrain, because you see these contour intervals start to get closer to each other, especially if we took the right-hand path by accident. So we know if we start going uphill any significant amount that we've gone too far. So we have our terrain mapped out in our minds. We know what our handrail is, which is the creek, and we know what our backstop is, which is the split in the creek or in the trail. So the next thing we want to do now is to calculate the distance that we're going to actually walk. And to do that, we can use a piece of scratch paper with a straight edge. And the way we're going to do that is I'm going to take the edge of the paper and I'm just going to put it against the trail where we're going to start. And we're going to start just to the right of the main road. We wouldn't want to start right on the main road. So I'm going to put the edge of the paper at the edge of the trail right there, and I'm going to make a mark. Now I'm going to anchor the paper. You can use your fingernail, or if you have another pen or pencil, it's probably good to use that. You can anchor the paper down and hold the map down as well. And you want to just rotate the edge of the paper until it touches the edge of the trail again. And right where the trail starts to deviate from the edge of the paper, you want to mark that spot. And you want to take your time doing this and be very, very careful, because if you mess up, you have to start over. And then I'm going to repeat that. I'm going to anchor at that mark now and rotate the edge of the paper until it touches the trail again. And where the trail starts to deviate from the edge, this time it's going back like under the paper. I want to make a mark there. And I just keep repeating this. And the reason that we want to do that is we want to follow the contours of the trail to get an accurate distance. If we just took a straight line measurement from where we start to where the waypoint is, we actually wouldn't have a very accurate distance. And like I said, you want to take your time because every little bit of distance counts on these maps. Normally, if you were doing this in a real world situation, you're not going to be trying to find a small marker like you're looking for today. You're going to be looking for a road, you're going to be looking for a town, something large. So that's all the more reason to be very, very careful while you're marking your distance so that your pace count's accurate. And map and compass land nav is not GPS. GPS would get you in just a couple feet of a destination. That's not the case with map and compass land navigation. You're going to get in a general vicinity, so you've got to kind of use all these things in conjunction. You want to use your pace count to get you about in the right area, and then terrain recognition to kind of dial it in so that you know exactly where you are. Okay, so after we make all those marks, that gives us our distance that we're going to travel. And if we compare it down here to the scale bar that's at the bottom of the map, we see that it's just over half a mile. So let's go ahead and measure that to see exactly how far it is that we're going to have to travel, and then we'll convert that to our pace count. Okay, so we see that that's right at 5 inches and 7/16. Okay, and that comes out to 5.4375 inches. And now for each inch on our map, that's 522 feet. And that equals 2,838 feet, point 3. So this is the distance that you're going to have to travel. Now, this is the part where you're going to have to use your pace count, not my pace count value, which I'm going to use for this example. But whatever you figured your pace count out to be, you're going to divide this number by your pace count. So for me, my pace is 5.5. So I'm going to divide this number by 5.5. And that gives me 516 paces that I will have to take to cover that distance. Now, when you're actually moving, your pace count's going to vary, depending on the terrain you're going across, depending on the speed you're moving, depending on whether you're tired or whether you're energetic. So, like I was saying, this is not GPS. It's wholly possible that after you make your paces, you might be a little bit short of this. You might be a little long of this. So that's where it's important to also keep track of the terrain. Once you start getting close to that pace, like if I'm taking 516 paces, once I get to the 490 mark, I need to start really paying attention and looking for this terrain change that we know the waypoint's at. And if I see that, then even if my pace has put me a little bit farther or a little bit short, I need to go ahead and move into where I think that I ought to be. So if I'm a little short, let's say, and I see that this draw is opened up here to the left, and that I can look ahead maybe and even see that there's another one opening up to the right, I need to go ahead. I can see my waypoint is just about in the middle of this draw on the left, so I need to go ahead and move on up and put myself near that draw, near the middle of that draw, but still on the trail, because that's where the waypoint is really supposed to be. The pace count, the terrain, feature recognition, that's all to get you in the area that you're supposed to be going towards. And once you get here, that's when we're going to use our compass setting of 151. So now we can use our compass before we even get started on the hike to figure out about which way we're going to travel once we shoot our bearing. So again, this is all covered in the Map and Compass Land Nav series of videos I did. But the first thing we're going to do is to orient our map. So I want to take my compass and set it to north. Set the orienting arrow to north. And then I'm going to align the straight edge of my compass with one of the grid lines on the map. Then I'm going to rotate map and compass as a unit until the needle, magnetic needle, the red, is in the orienting needle. So basically putting red in the shed. Okay, there it is. And now I can rotate the compass bezel to 151 degrees. And each one of these little tick marks is 2 degrees, so I'm going to have to put it right in the middle. So that's 150. This would be 151. Okay, great. And now, leaving my map oriented that way, I could come this way as though we were walking right along the trail, right to where our waypoint is. So I'm going to lay it right across our waypoint right there, and then I'm going to rotate just the compass this time until red is in the shed again, keeping the edge on the waypoint about right there. And that lets me know then that we're going to be moving in this direction from the waypoint. Just like that. So almost directly into that draw to our left. So once we get to this draw and we notice on our left, we're going to move almost directly into it to our left. And we're going to move 192 feet. And so that's going to come up just over 1/4 of an inch on this map. So it's not very far at all that we're going to head up here, that we should start seeing our marker somewhere in this area. So that should definitely get you a really good start in finding this marker. And the next section of the video is going to be an actual walkthrough. So if you want to see that, if you actually want to see the terrain covered, stick around and watch that.
Make your way past the trail information kiosk and then past the gate. Next, you'll encounter the first stream crossing. We'll keep count of these to make it easier for you to find the waypoint. Next, you'll pass the Poly Trail entrance sign on your left. here we come to stream crossing number 2. Here the gravel trail breaks to the right and goes uphill. Stay straight on the narrow path that keeps parallel to the stream, like we saw on the map. Now on the narrower path, we come to the third stream crossing. Notice, just as we saw on the map, we have a mountain on the left of us and one on the right. We're also very close to the stream, and it's running along the trail. And now we come to the fourth stream crossing, and this one has a very large boulder near it on our left. Not long after the fourth stream crossing, we find the fifth. This is one of my favorite trails in the Kanawha State Forest because it's really scenic, but not steep at all. And if you walk it during late afternoon, the sun breaking through the trees looks really nice. We'll call this part the sixth stream crossing, but it's really more of a section where the stream and trail share the same space. This is one of the reasons this challenge wouldn't be a good idea to tackle on a day when the water levels are up. A quick word about keeping your pace count. It's hard to keep count of each pace the whole trail, so what I do is make tick marks on my scratch paper every 50 paces. This helps me keep track, and it may help you too. You could also make a ranger cord like I discussed in the fourth video in the Map and Compass Land Nav series. When we come to the seventh stream crossing, you'll see a massive boulder on the left. Unless the water's high, there's always stones to walk on to cross the streams. Just be careful, they can be slick or roll. After crossing the stream, there's a trail that breaks to the right called Bob Ward. Just a short distance further, we find the eighth and final stream crossing. Here I notice that the foot of the hills start to pull away from the trail on both sides, and my pace count indicates that I am getting close to the waypoint. I finish my pace count and I have to walk just a bit further to position myself in the middle of the draw to my left, like we talked about in section 2. Now's the time to set our compass bearing to 151 and start counting our paces along that bearing until we cover 192 feet. Again, if you need a reminder on how to move along a compass bearing, be sure and check out the Map and Compass Land Nav series. The vegetation is more dense here, but the terrain still isn't steep. Just be careful as you move along and be on the lookout for the orange marker on the tree. When you find it, go around the tree to find the selfie sign and take your photo with it. And that's it. Thanks for watching, and I hope you participate in this challenge if for no other reason than to enjoy an awesome trail. If there's interest in this type of challenge, I'll post more. Don't forget to stop in at the gift shop while you're here and have a look around. Take care.